Happy Sunday. Welcome to ATW All Things Wrestling Podcast. Do not adjust your screen. I'm your host, Tony Twist, joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Ellie G.
Ellie G.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I steal your
No.
intro? Anyways, welcome to the show today. It's a special show today. We're in the same studio, so happy to be together. It's going to be a little weird. We're not looking at the screen. We're going to be sitting right next to each other. But we're really excited about our guest that we're having on today. She is a pro wrestling commentator, announcer. She's got a really cool YouTube show, Let's Get Serial. But before we jump into that, wow, what a weekend with WrestleMania, night 1, night 2. Huge changes. The WWE being bought by, looks like the Endeavor Group, who actually owns the UFC. So not only a jam-packed Mania weekend, night 1 and night 2, great shows, but huge news with the acquisition and like a merger of WWE. An insane Monday Night Raw to kick off the new season, heading into WrestleMania Backlash. I think they're not calling it just Backlash. I think it's WrestleMania Backlash. But anyways, we'll get all into that in today's show. But let's go ahead and bring on our guest, Miss Alyssa Marino.
Hi. Thank you guys for having me on.
Hey, thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Delightful. No complaints. All is well.
So, as I mentioned, there was a jam-packed Mania weekend, night 1, night 2. What did you think overall of the whole weekend?
I have to say it was a heck of a weekend. It was very enjoyable. Got to, just spend time with my boyfriend, drinking beer, eating pizza, and just, I have to say, night 1 in particular, I feel like it flew by. And I know it was like, this was 4 hours straight of like nonstop wrestling. And for some reason, it was like spaced out and it was so wonderfully done that I didn't feel like all of that time had passed. It was just so enjoyable. So I really enjoyed the weekend.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And I think Ellie and I are in agreement. Night 1, to me, I think was better than night 2. I think there were some injuries on night 2 that caused some timing issues. There was a lot of breaks, and night 2 felt like a really long show.
It did.
Going into, obviously, the main event, Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Did you have a particular night? Did you like night 1 over night 2 or vice versa?
I definitely think that for me, it was night 1. Just the fact that, like I said, the fact that I didn't feel or realize that I had been staring at my television screen for 4 hours, that's how I know it was a great night of wrestling. So I think for me, it was night 1.
Well, since we have a woman on our show, I'd like to talk about the female matches. So the 3-on-3, Trish and Lita, Becky Lynch versus Damage Control. What did you think about that?
Oh, I thought it was excellent. I mean, everything from, Trish's kind of callbacks to, old gear, the blending of, past, present, future, everything kind of colliding, multi-generational talent. That stuff I think is just so brilliant. And it gives you a good feeling to really see it all kind of taking place on such a grand stage.
Yeah. I know that, Tony had said that he really enjoys when the men come back, the legends come back. Do you think that it has the same kind of nostalgia when the women come back, considering their impact was huge as the women through each incarnation of the women's, how would you say?
Going from the Attitude Era to the Diva Era to the modern era, it's just been a huge evolution. And obviously there's been an evolution in men's wrestling as well. But you could really see it in the women. Obviously, Trish and Lita being from the Attitude Era, wrestling just looked different back then. I think they were two revolutionary women back then. Because
they made huge leaps in comparison to the men, where they just kind of steadily kept getting interesting storylines and improving their physical performance. And now here you see these huge leaps. Is it as exciting, or maybe even more exciting, to see these women from back in the day come in and not only just be there, alongside the ring, but inside the ring again?
Oh, definitely. I think that that's something too that we're celebrating more and more, and I think for good reason, because like we said, like they are trailblazers. You know, like the scene for women looks now the way that it does because of so many of the influences and the legends that have made their mark on it, and really tested the limits and pushed things to what could be done and what was acceptable to be done and how it's supposed to look. So I definitely think that that's something that, to me, I mean, obviously everyone's going to have a different perspective and look at it differently. To me, I think that that's absolutely thrilling. I think that it's so exciting to be able to celebrate these victories and show that, like, yes, we can still hang. Yes, you know, like this is a really super enjoyable match that we all get to, you know, enjoy and all gets to take place together.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I would say, I think Ellie agrees, from the whole weekend, I think Rhea and Charlotte was the match of the entire weekend. Would you agree
with that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and the match to end all matches for night one. I mean, you go first.
I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. I think it was such a celebration of, you know, what these women can do and what these competitors can do. They got to show out and show what they're made of. And I thought overall it was just such a compelling and really enjoyable match. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
It really felt like they were both at the apex of their ability, and they really showcased it. It was exciting from beginning to end. The agility, the way that, I mean, Charlotte getting dropped on her face and then getting that nick on her nose. And then you see what the next day, her and is it her husband or her fiance? No. I mean, her fiance or her husband now.
Who were Charlotte?
Andrade.
Oh, Andrade? No, they're married.
Yeah, and they were just on the treadmills the next day. Like that, she's getting back at it. Isn't she going to be competing in a bodybuilding competition?
Oh, wow.
She's actually She's going to take a break from WWE for a while, and I think she's going to be entering bodybuilding competition, which is going to be interesting.
That's amazing. But I think, and two, one of the things I think was I appreciated about that match with Charlotte and Rhea, they are two just athletes. Like that is just like, oh, wow. Like you're like incredible. Like they're unstoppable. It was really, really, really impressive.
It was.
It had to have been really tough for Sammy and Kevin Owens and the Usos to follow that match. Now, we had Sammy Kiss. I don't know if you know Sammy Kiss out of Wildcat from Louisiana.
Yeah.
So we had him on the show last week, and we were kind of doing a Mania preview show. I kind of feel the ladies were kind of given the short end of the stick, not being the headline match of the night. And I've had some discussions with other people in regards to that. What do you think? I really think they deserved to headline night one. Or what are your thoughts on that?
I think so for me, it's tough because I definitely am not as avid of a watcher week to week to, you know, keep up with storylines and what's all going on. Like I tune in for the pay-per-views. I watch the amazing video packages that their teams do because they are just stellar and they get me so hyped up for them, as they should. To me, I just felt like there was such a major storyline going on with like Sammy and with the bloodline and everything like that. And I feel like we had to kind of see that to fruition. Whereas I don't know week to week how much we were driving the story of Rhea and Charlotte. I don't know though. Like, obviously correct me if I'm wrong. If there was something like super major that was building up, leading up to this, I definitely feel like that should have been the payoff for the main event.
There definitely was, because Rhea won the Royal Rumble, and she called out Charlotte the next night. So you've had all the way from the Rumble up into Mania. It's definitely been a big build-up. I think the ladies should have headlined it. I mean, to have a tag match as your main event, like the closer.
I was wondering, has that ever happened? Has there been like a major tag to main event WrestleMania?
I don't think so, but you know, we're relatively new in the 2-night Mania format.
True.
So I think that's maybe why, but they definitely could have reversed it. Sammy and KO could have faced the Usos, and then Charlotte and Rhea closing out the night. To me, I think that would have made night one even more special.
I feel that.
I think they proved it in their performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was incredible.
it was from bell to finish. They tore the house down.
Absolutely. I
No,
wonder
they
how
really
much
did.
will change with new ownership, with it being 2 days currently, and that being a newer thing. And if they're going to kind of shake up these kind of classic, like you're saying, there was a tag match as the last, are they going to shake these kind of traditional things up now that there's new ownership?
Possibly. Do you like or do you hate the 2-night format? I kind of hate it.
I think for me, like I said, because I'm not as avid of a viewer throughout the, every week of the year, the fact that during the year there's just 2 days where I am like sunken in and like super engaged, to me, I'm like, that's fine. But I could see where if you're watching, like, because there's so much wrestling. There's so much wrestling out there. I mean, whether it's televised, whether it's on the independent scene, there's so much to like inundate oneself with. So for me, I kind of like that it's spaced out, and I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have my daytime hours where I can do everything, and then I can just like plop down and know that I know what I'm doing for the next like 3 hours and 3.5 hours to 4 hours of this weekend. So
It's a lot of wrestling, and that kind of will take me into the next thing I want to talk about. So a relatively newer thing over the last few years is WrestleCon. So WrestleCon is like the Comic Con of Comic Cons, but for the wrestling industry. And I think Mania is actually going to be in your neck of the woods next year, right? Because are you in Philly or near Philly?
I am.
So
indeed.
WrestleMania 40. You got the whole shenanigans, WrestleCon and Mania and the whole weekend. So maybe we'll see you there next year.
I said I want no days off next WrestleMania week. I want to be everywhere. I want to do everything. So
I know Ellie wanted to kind of talk about an unfortunate incident that happened
at WrestleCon.
Yes,
with Giselle Shaw. Obviously, there's been a huge backlash against Rick Steiner for what he said and how he attacked her. What do you think could come of this? Do you think there is any good that can come of this? One thing that I thought was great was that Jericho came out against him and really kind of shone a light on how much of a bully he is for known talent and for kind of legendary talent. So what do you think? I don't know. What do you think about this and where this could go?
Yeah, I mean, it's despicable. It's deplorable. I think I have trouble wrapping my mind around the fact that people can be so bothered by someone else's existence. Mm-hmm. I just, to me, I live by, what you can always say is nothing. And when someone actively chooses to engage in something like that, it's like, damn, like you didn't have anybody that could be like, hey, maybe like don't say something, just, but at the same time, like it was a terrible situation, but I do hope that it can come about where we weed out some of that just like really toxic crap out of the scene. And I mean, obviously out of everywhere in the world would be excellent. But to start in a place where, so many of us find safety and find a place where we can feel like we belong, and to have that be violated is just, it's terrible. I think that one of the things that could come about from it is, like we said, just highlighting more of the incredible athletes that are part of the scene, in any way, shape, or form, and trying to now use this as an example of what not to do. You see how big of a backlash this was. Like, there's no place for it. There's no place for it here or anywhere. So I just hope that good things can come about from it and showing more solidarity with, our family in this world.
Absolutely. I think that Giselle really handled it with such grace.
Yeah.
And she's a real, I mean, it's really horrific that he did that. And the fact that none of the other legends that were there actually stood up and said that, you shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong. Like you said, no one next to you being like, hey, bro, like maybe this is not the move you want to make. Do you think that Rick will have the cojones to show up? I know he's banned from WrestleCon. Do you think out of any of the other things where he can hawk his merch at, that he will have the cojones to show up, and what that could look like?
Honestly, I didn't even think about that. Like, I guess it's just like I don't really think about him. So to me, I was like, oh, like when I heard the name, I was like, oh wait, damn, okay. I really don't know what that'll look like. I hope that it's something where I don't know how well it would be received, but I hope he can have like a see the light moment and realize that was a terrible thing to do. I hope that there is some learning and growing that he can do as a person. But yeah, I don't know what that would what it would look like.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you would think in the wrestling world, obviously it's a wide array, with the independent scene, and then you have WWE, AEW, Max Caster and Anthony Bowens in AEW, first openly gay, world champions. I mean, they're making huge strides in the industry, and then for something like this, it just it kind of makes it feel like you take a bunch of steps backwards in regards to acceptance.
There's so much progression that's happening where we are shining a light and we are highlighting. I mean, that weekend we had Effie's Big Gay Brunch. It was an amazing collection and celebration. But yeah, like it's we make all these steps forward and then we take a giant fall backwards. So yeah, I do hope that it can be something where we can bounce off of this very crappy and terrible, disturbing situation and like leave that BS behind and let's go forward with new and safer places for our people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, with that kind of in mind, I know it happens more in the independent scene, and I'm not as familiar with that, but the intergender matches seem to be something of a growing phenomenon, and there's quite a bit of criticism and, people for and against it, I suppose. I haven't seen any of these matches. What do you think of them? Have you seen intergender matches?
From when I got my start, I never considered them to be anything other than normal. So I think for me, the idea that, there might be a planned event where there's one women's match and, one of the competitors can't make it, pulls off the show, and now we don't have a women's match. The idea that it wouldn't be like, oh, well, I mean, they're wrestlers, so just have another wrestler step in. To me, that always just felt like, oh, why? That's not like just a normal understood thing. Like, I trained a little bit, but I did most of like my manager announcing commentary training out of Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy. And that was always, when you step in the ring, you're a wrestler. You're not, it doesn't matter who you are, you're a wrestler. So yeah, to me, that's never been anything abnormal or strange. It's just always been an understood.
That's a really interesting take. Like I said, I haven't seen any. I don't know how I feel about it with there being such a discrepancy in size and strength. I don't know. It makes me, I think it should be a forum where we can talk openly about it without judgment. Because I think a lot of people just automatically jump on like a really feminist bandwagon about, at least from what I've heard, when they agree with I'm not saying I disagree with it. I don't know how they work. Is there like a weight class between the two? Like I can see Rhea Ripley fighting a man because that woman is so strong and she's so built and she can lift big weight. You see her at the gym lifting big weight. I mean, 75-pound barbell or dumbbells in her one hand. I mean, that's incredible. So I don't know. To me, I always just picture David and Goliath, some massive man and some rather, Liv Morgan, small woman. I just don't. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around it. Is there any kind of matchup, similar matchups? Whoever.
I think that a lot of the time it's sometimes you get the opposite, where you'll have a really strong, very powerful woman and like a cruiserweight. Yeah. Man. So it's like, I think it can go either way. I know of very few companies on the independent scene that do weight classes. But yeah, I think to me, it's just at the end of the day, I want to see the the competitors in action doing what they're doing and showing, David Goliath is one of, I think, the greatest stories, because it shows that, you can be small and you can outthink a larger competitor. You can out strategize, a cheater competitor. So to see either that victory or defeat, and just see how those dynamics play off of one another, regardless of, what someone's gender is, I think that's where the excitement is for me.
Yeah, I like that answer.
And it's really, honestly, if you think about it, it's not anything new, because the WWE did it when they were the WWF. China, she was the ninth wonder of the world. She actually became Intercontinental Champion, but there was no women to really follow her. And that kind of, not too long after the Attitude Era, the Divas came about. Mm-hmm. And it was a much different style of wrestling with women. But, China, she was revolutionary, 20 something plus years ago, where she was wrestling men and wrestling Chris Jericho and things like that. I think there might have, and back then, nobody was really throwing a stink about it, because China was just impressive. I mean, like Rhea Ripley and Charlotte and Bianca and Asuka, all these women that are just strong, and they, I could definitely see them going up against men, no problem.
Agree. And I think too, it is something where, like, it's not going to be for everyone, and if someone isn't, whether, whoever it may be, doesn't want to participate, that's fine. That's your own prerogative. That's why I love that there are so many different facets of wrestling. There are so many different styles and genres within wrestling, that, like, you can still be a wrestling fan and find something that you enjoy. If, what's really exciting to everyone right now isn't something you want to watch, like, okay, there's other things that we can explore,
Yeah.
That's the time to take a bathroom break or grab yourself something to eat. If if you don't want to change the channel, just step away for a moment. I think social media has given an unfortunate voice to many with their displeasure, and they say hateful things. Like, Twitter's an awful place, and
very toxic.
If you get on there and people they really just spew all their hatred. And it's unfortunate that people, if you don't like something, you don't, like you just said, you don't have to say anything, right?
It's true.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking, I totally agree. Then there's people who say, basically, don't have an opinion. Don't say anything negative about anything, or else you're not being supportive. And in one way, I agree with that. If you're talking about somebody's gender, the way somebody was born and how they look, how their body functions, how those things, keep it to yourself. That's not something that you need to comment negatively about. But when it comes to the way somebody, like the gear somebody chooses, or like with Rhea, I'm a big fan of Rhea. I don't like the black hair. I don't like the black makeup. I get that it goes for, with her character and the arc right now. I personally don't like it. And I don't want to not, or get shamed or told you can't say that or don't say that. You're not being supportive. I think people take it too far both ways. Either you're just spewing hate, or you're not allowed to say anything, or else you get harped on. And I think maybe that's more a commentary about the way our country and the world society is a little bit right now, where it's very extreme on both ends, and it's hard to kind of meet in the middle at times.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think just the idea of Twitter being such a, I'm trying to think of like a somewhat nice word to say about it, but it is just such like a platform for anyone. It's just, yeah, to a degree. But yeah, I think that it is it's a great platform that I think can connect a lot of people and has the potential to do really great things. And then people use it for just the most awful stuff. Yeah. So I think that, it's like you said, like we should be able to like what you like, don't like what you don't like. To me, it's when it becomes, hey, this is my opinion, and if you don't agree, you're wrong.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, I can't really, So yeah. I'm very, very careful about what I say on Twitter. No hot takes for me.
Right. I find it very interesting that it's kind of that dichotomy of say or don't say. When we're doing something like this kind of is dependent upon your opinion, right? And even the stuff that is maybe a little controversial, like Logan Paul. I'm not a Logan Paul fan. I can admit, though, my God, he impressed the hell out of me against
Seth Rollins.
Seth Rollins. Words and names just leave my brain at times. So, but like, I can't stand that guy. I don't like his YouTube presence. I don't really know it either. But from what I've seen, I can gather it's not my kind of guy. But I mean, from top to bottom, you know, I can admit that he was amazing. That match was phenomenal, but
very entertaining.
Yeah.
What is your, you know, kind of speaking of that, celebrities coming in and really just, it's not like years past when celebrities would come into the WWE for special, you know, Royal Rumble appearances, you know, SummerSlam, Mania. It was like, okay, can we get this, you know, can we get this over with? Can we move on to a match? But now in recent years, especially with guys like Logan Paul, Bad Bunny. I mean, Bad Bunny was training at the Performance Center in Florida, getting ready for last year, and, you know, possibly maybe having a match at WrestleMania Backlash in Puerto Rico. What are your thoughts on celebrities coming in now and really just, man, I mean, just going all out when it comes to, like, holy cow, these guys could actually be a full-time wrestler?
I think it's so impressive. Yeah, because it's like, to be fair, I didn't know much about Logan Paul. But I think it's taken it from, you know, celebrity involvement being a novelty to showing that, you know, these people have athleticism. These people obviously have some level of dedication to, you know, have an actual match. You know, like that's absolutely wild to me. The idea that, you know, Bad Bunny and Logan Paul, especially as the example, like these are people with like staggering schedules. And the fact that you made enough time to devote yourself to accomplishing a wrestling match. I've been part of the wrestling world for 5 years. I've never had a wrestling match, you know, like it's just a level of dedication and agility, athleticism that is just so impressive to me. So the idea that someone could be a full-time celebrity, whether it's a recording artist, a YouTuber, a boxer, whatever the case may be, and be able to put that much dedication toward having a match on that stage is good for you. That's amazing. But yeah, I feel like even the celebrities, I think, take it more. I don't know if celebrities of the past maybe didn't take it seriously, but the fact that it would be kind of like I said, like a novelty. And no, these are athletes. These are athletes that are having a match, and that's so awesome.
I mean, no knock to him, but I mean, Snoop Dogg. That's what celebrities appearances in the past kind of have always been. It's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, Snoop, you know, great at what he does, but, you know,
good hype man.
Yeah, good hype man, but, you know, not impressive in the ring. You know, he's no Logan Paul.
He was clocking the Miz with those shots, though. I'm just saying, he could pack a punch.
So he was a little stiff, but you know, he was trying to do the people's elbow, and he's doing these little, you know, Fred Flintstone steps towards the ropes, and else.
He really could have attacked the ropes a little bit more. I agree on that. I thought that was a fun little moment, though. And honestly, like from what I was seeing on social media too, like the pop for Snoop was rad. Like that was exciting. That was fun.
Well, I mean, they were in his hometown, LA. I mean, LA was eating up everything. LA. I mean, the crowd, man. I think this WrestleMania crowd had to have been one of the better crowds in a long time.
Yeah. They were there for
they were
everything.
blowing the roof off that place. I mean, when Roman beat Cody on Sunday night, I thought they might riot.
Yeah, that was definitely intense, but it just shows how much care there was for everything that had been built up to that point. And like LA is just a very special place. There's so much heart throughout LA. Like I lived there for a long amount of time. It's where I got my start in wrestling. Like I love that area.
You got to be maybe the third or fourth person we've had on the show that has talked about the Santino brothers. Tell us about that experience, because it seems like if you're on the West Coast and you're in the wrestling biz, like a lot of it goes through those guys, the Santino brothers.
Yeah, I will always have so much love in my heart for Santino's. I went there as part of a one-day tryout with a friend, and it was, you know, all the rolls, the bumps, and it was very demanding. It was, you know, running the whole, you know, length up and down of their like parking area. And I was not in the shape to do it. I still am not in the shape to do it. Like, I think if I went back, I'd be like, nope, get me the bucket. I can't do this. But I went through the whole process of the 1-day tryout, and when we got to the very end of it, we got to do promos. And I had like an idea of like, oh well, if I was a wrestler, I would be this character. And I cut a promo, and that's where I felt like my actual real passion for it truly lied. And they ended up telling me that, like, you know, they do wrestling training, you know, every couple times a season. They're like, you know, we're planning on doing a class that's just for non-in-ring talent. So production, photographers, videographers, commentary, announcers, everything. It was really like a production class. And I started that, I think it was like October 2017. I like everyone lost a year. So I'm like all messed up with my dates. But yeah, I never turned back from that. I think that was, I'm so grateful that I was able to have that experience, because I think it shaped everything and just kind of launched me on my path. So
now, I know Ellie wasn't with us the first time you were on the show, but you did talk about the character a little bit. And then I got a question for you about someone that may have done this character similarly, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, can you tell our audience again, kind of tell us a little bit about what your character was based on?
yeah, so my character that I ended up actually flushing out as more of a general manager and more of a managerial role was Kathy from Human Resources, and she was the death of fun, and she wanted to make sure that everyone was obeying rules and regulations and all the particular guidelines of everything. There was no jumping from the top rope. No. There was you know, certain T-shirts you would get written up for, because if you were in the audience and you had certain T-shirts on, Kathy did not like them. But yeah, it was my fun little character that was the enforcer and made sure that everyone at Santino Brothers and beyond was all complying.
Now, similarly, you may have not heard about this, but Chelsea Green, now being in the WWE, is almost doing like a Karen type of character. Let me speak to your manager. Almost little snippets of maybe what you were doing. Like, and you know, the wrestling world is a huge world, but it's also a small world at the same time. So I don't know if maybe you'd be sending any messages to Chelsea Green about character infringement there.
Oh, absolutely not. I love Chelsea Green so much. Yeah. I had her on Let's Get Serial. She is a doll baby, and I absolutely love where she's going with this iteration. I was so excited to see her back. She's wonderful. I feel like Kathy and Karen they're a little ways away from each other. So I don't think there's any infringement of any kind, but no, I love Chelsea.
She's great. She's an example of someone, you know, she was in WWE previously in NXT, and, you know, she was released, I think maybe right before COVID, when they were doing a lot of releases, but she really made a name for herself, and she killed it on the independent scene. And for her to come back and be back in the mainstream, I mean, it's awesome. I'm a huge Chelsea Green fan. So that I did not know she was a guest on your show. So
yeah, she's wonderful. We got some pet cameos that came in. We ate Canadian pops. It was wonderful. Yeah, no, she's amazing. I think she's someone that showed no matter where she goes, like, she's undeniable. She's awesome.
Now, speaking of the independent scene, you know, everybody has who they have their eyes on in the independent scene, but obviously you can't see everybody, right? And you have your territories, you know, you're in kind of in the Northeast, you know, Philly area. I don't know what kind of where it falls at. But is there anybody on the independent scene that you're like, you got to keep an eye on them, either man, woman, whoever, like what rising superstars on the independent scene have you seen up close in person, or, you know, who should we keep an eye on?
Well, obviously the first one off the bat, just because it's someone that is very near and dear to my heart, that I have watched, career just kind of grow and change across different areas, is Andy Brown. Uptown Andy Brown, I think, is phenomenal. Obviously, I was very, you know, keen on his career when we were both in Los Angeles. We were in Florida together, and now being up in the Northeast and being able to see him really thrive and get different opportunities out here. Absolutely awesome. You know, the Thick Daddy, very heavy striker, very deceptive agility. One of my absolutely all-time favorites. So he would definitely be one to watch. And then honestly, the two that just come to my mind right away are Jordan Blade and Little Mean Kathleen. Jordan Blade, very much kind of a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background, very technical. One half of Kings of the District with Eel O'Neill, based down in like the DC, Virginia area. Definitely one to watch. And Little Mean Kathleen, to me, lives her life in all capitals. And I think that she has such an intense, fun energy to her. She's doing a lot of really cool things up at Wrestling Open and beyond right now. Just fantastic. So fun and enjoyable. But yeah, really anyone out of like the rosters that I work as part of, there are so many treats that are across the locker rooms here. And we work mostly in like New England. Absolutely fantastic talent up here.
Yeah. And I love, being a person of color, some of the people that you've mentioned, and I mean, you saw the representation at WrestleMania. I mean, it's the biggest stage for the wrestling industry, right? And you have women like Asuka, Bianca Belair, I mean, the list goes on and on. To see the representation, just the wide diversity, it's amazing to see. And, seeing it on the independent scene, you definitely see it. And it's really just, it's making its way. I mean, you see it over in AEW, Jade Cargill, and, so many other, the Japanese wrestlers that are coming up. I was so happy to see at the Hall of Fame, the Great Muta being inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame. I mean, the guy's a legend. And, I mean, the list goes on and on. So the people that you're mentioning, I mean, it's amazing to see because, myself being in my early 40s, growing up, you didn't see a lot of representation of people of color. You had guys like Tito Santana and, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and, the Junkyard Dog. And that was kind of pretty much it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, diversity. And it's so amazing that my kids watching this stuff, they see the representation.
I think even too, over the course of WrestleMania week, you got to see a lot of representation from like shows that were part of the collective. You had For the Culture, you had Big Gay Brunch, you had Tokyo Joshi Pro did an entire showcase. DDT was represented. So I think that really, WrestleMania as the grand stage that it was, but then all of the other shows that were part of that week. I think we got to celebrate so many different forms and different people within the wrestling world. It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great thing to see. And the Bianca Belair, her entrance when she brought out all the little girls. I mean, that was like, that was probably the best entrance of the whole week. Besides
1,000%.
Seth Rollins and his gear. Seth Rollins and his gear might have been the best in-ring gear, possibly. Or I don't know.
Undeniable style mogul, but Bianca Belair's entrance got me right in the feels. Oh my God, I was giddy. That was wonderful. So beautiful.
You brought out the little kids. Anytime the kids are involved, I
know.
jumped here.
Yeah,
I just love them.
Yeah.
And then with John Cena, they mentioned the Make-A-Wish, him doing it more than anyone. I mean, that's just amazing.
And his schedule being so insane anyway.
I was just going to say, I think he must have like some actual superpowers where he can like manipulate time, because I just don't understand like physiologically how he can do all the things he does. He's a superhero.
Maybe Ernest is actually his double.
Have you seen those memes where it's John Cena side by side with Ernest?
I'm just saying, I've never seen him in the same room.
Right. What was the highlight of the Mania weekend? What was your most favorite moment? And it could be, I guess, match as well.
Of WrestleMania proper, of the whole week.
Yeah, the whole weekend. The weekend. Yeah.
All right. I was really thrilled because from, like I said, getting my start in Los Angeles, Santino Brothers opened up the collective. So they did a Santino Brothers show. To me, that was so special because I feel like California, to me, has always felt like an island. It's so far removed from all the little clusters of areas where things are on the independent scene. And I think a lot of the time, there's so much incredible talent on the West Coast that doesn't get its recognition, because it's always such a far flight away to compete on, you know, some of the other places. So to be able to see like my school in some place that I have so much pride for get to kick off the whole weekend for like the independent scene of the week, to me, that was so special. There's anyone that watches it, there's a triple threat match for the Santino Brothers Intercity Championship. Delilah Doom defending against Heather Monroe and Johnny Robbie. Amazing. It's it's over on Fight Plus. I would definitely recommend checking that out. There's also an incredible tag team match. I think that's right before that. It was just really, really fun, and it touched my heart. So,
well, now that Mania is over, they're already talking about next year, and next year it looks like it's going to be in your neck of the woods, WrestleMania 40.
I'm ready.
Are you going to be there?
With bells on? Like I'm already putting the feelers out. Like I'm using this year to just keep working on my own skills as a broadcaster, as an announcer. I want to be everywhere. I want to make use of the fact that this is my backyard. I didn't get my start here, but I'm here. And I really want to show what I can do. That's
awesome. We're excited. Already pumped up for Mania, for next WrestleMania 40. That makes me feel very old.
You are.
Hey.
You're only as old as you feel. So.
Well, some days much older than others. I mean, my first WrestleMania I remember watching was WrestleMania 3. I was 6 years old, and wow. I have been to 4 WrestleManias. WrestleMania 18, hands down, one of the greatest WrestleManias ever. The Rock and Hulk Hogan, the main event. WrestleMania 19, WrestleMania 20, and I think I went to WrestleMania 25. And now that we're coming up on WrestleMania 40, I'm like, oh my God.
Think of all the amazing things you've seen happen. That's so incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. So, well, tell our audience, I know you're a busy woman. Tell us where we can find you, what events you're going to be working, the wrestling organizations, are you still doing the Let's Get Serial show?
So Let's Get Serial has been on a little bit of a hiatus. I am working on its return. It's been a little busy. So I'm trying to get my stuff back going on that. Hopefully record some new content. But I am part of Women's Wrestling Army, which has highlights and matches on YouTube. It's also on Pro Wrestling TV, so you can hear myself and Sam Laterna on the call. I work for Capital Championship Wrestling, which is on Title Match Network. I also do the CCW In and Out the Locker Room podcast, which is on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I do that with Ella J. I pretty much work a lot in the Northeast. I do stuff for Beyond, Wrestling Open, Grind, Limitless, Blitzkrieg Pro. That's all on IWTV, as well as Combat Fights Unlimited, which is coming soon to IWTV, our most recent event. So I'm just trying to stay busy and keep growing myself and my skills. So.
Do you have a personal assistant to keep all that straight? Because I don't know how.
All up here. I'm a very big user of to-do lists and Apple Calendar. Let's go.
I don't like the Apple Calendar. I like the Google Calendar. I'm an Apple phone user, but I like the Google Calendar. For some reason, the Apple Calendar to me it's not user friendly, or maybe I just don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I'm just I color code everything. So I'm like, oh, if this is wrestling, it's this. If it's a podcast, it's this. So yeah, I'm very much an organization.
I just have to give myself 2 days before, 1 day before, 2 hours before, 1 hour before, because I have no sense of time.
Hey, obviously same. If I can't remember what year I started. I'm like, wait, was that 2017, 2018? When did this happen? I don't know.
I really related to that.
Yeah.
It just seems like during the pandemic, it's just a big black hole. So then a lot of things just kind of mesh together.
Yeah. Like 2020 was a really weird year. So I think part of me is just like, let's just take it off the calendar. That's fine.
The 13th floor.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
It was great to have you on. It's Easter Sunday, so get to your family functions and all that good stuff. And that's gonna do it for us today. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. I'm your host, Tony Twist. We're in the same studio today, joined by
Ellie G.
So thank you so much, Alyssa. We appreciate you having on. And that's going to do it for our show today. Make sure to check us out on Instagram, on our YouTube channel, of course. We're on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, and every other podcast format that you can get your audio on. And Alyssa, I think you have your Instagram up on the screen. So tell everybody where to find you personally. I know you plugged a lot of things that you're working.
All right, me.
Right? We got to get you out there.
I am at AYY_Marino on all the socials. I mainly am just on Twitter and Instagram right now. So, but thank you guys so much for having me on. This was really, really awesome.
Yes, thank you so much. And hey, that's going to do it for our show today, guys. Have yourself a happy Sunday, and we're out of here.